Okay, so the problem with rook g7, saw the king can just take the rook, right? So now let's move on to rook h. Now, once again, we know that we want the rook that's closest to the king, right? Because this is only one file away. We want this rook to be cutting off. So that means we shouldn't be moving this rook at all right now. Okay? So that is the problem with rook to h1. It's not that it's a bad move or anything, it just makes our job a lot harder, and we don't want that to happen. Because now that means that this file is not cut off anymore. The king can start running back across. So now what about rook f7? Rook f7 also isn't a bad move, right? We give a check, and now we can force the king to go up or down. But the problem is, it isn't helping us like give a checkmate. Now, in this move, do we have any checkmate? No, right? All we can do is give another check. That's not going to help us. So, the correct move in this case is the amazing rook to f2. Now, these kind of moves are, I understand, it's pretty difficult to find, right? Because you're not giving a check or anything. All you're doing is just moving the rook down, and it's threatening checkmate the next move. So that's a pretty difficult move to find. Now, you'll see that this rook is cutting off, right? Now this rook is going to give the check. Next move, because it's black's turn to play. But the problem is, black can't magically jump the king over here and stop the rook from giving the check, right? So, instead the king is just stuck and it has to move. It's basically, now rook with h2, checkmate. This rook cuts off, this rook gives the check, and it's checkmate. So let's look at that one. Why rook to f2? And why not like rook to f7 or something? Oh, over here, remember when the king was attacking a rook, we said that we want to move the rook down, far away from the reach of the opponent's king, right? So now let's make a small change to that rule. So we learned that if the king is attacking the rook, then we want to move the rook far away, right? But now, instead of just when it's attacked, let's change it to whenever the king is stopping the opponent, for stopping us from giving a check. So like we can't give a check right now, right? Or if it's anywhere like close. So you see how this is super close to the our rook, right? But it's super far from this rook. All we have to do is move our other rook close to our rook and far from the opponent's king. Now it can't stop this checkmate, right? Because these two rooks are far away from each other. And why did I choose the rook to go to f2 and not f3? Well, f3 is still a good move, right? Rook to f3, there's no problem with it. We're still going to get the checkmate. But I wanted you guys to remember, we wanted the rooks in a diagonal position like this, right? Made it a lot easier for us, and we could just get a nice zigzag pattern to make it simpler to memorize and nicer looking. So we have this rook to f2 move, and once the king moves, this checkmate. We had the zigzag and easy to memorize with the closest rook being the cutoff rook, the one that doesn't allow the king to move across, and the rook a bit further away from the opponent's king, giving a checkmate. Alright, so does anybody have any questions about the two rook checkmate? No? Alright, so basically remember, we don't need to use the king. The king is kind of like not very useful um in this endgame. All we have to do is use the two rooks, put them in a diagonal position like this if possible. Sometimes it's not possible, right? And then go zigzag and checks. And if the king gets too close to one of our rooks, then move that rook all the way across. Then we can continue giving checks. And again, the king is too close to our rook, so we move it all the way down. Now we have the zigzag, right? The two rooks are diagonal. We have one rook cutting off. The closest rook is the one that cuts off, and the further rook is the one that gives the check. Alright? Okay, so now let's have one more example of two rooks checkmate. and that is if the king is being. Remember how before we had the king in like just the corner, right? It was doing nothing. What if the king is cut in the two rooks endgame? Instead of being helpful, sometimes the king can actually be kind of hurtful. It can be bad for our position. Not bad, but more like uh, not very. It's kind of obstructing our position, right? It's like an obstacle. Yeah, you could think of it like that. Okay, so in this case, we have a slightly different position. The two rooks are directly on top of each other, and the king is right in front. So what do? So we want to cut this king off, right? So we need to first choose which way do we want this king to go. This way, this way. Now in this case, I think which way do you guys think would be easier to go to the left or the right, given which way the rooks are pointing right now? You can just raise your hand and Aryan, you're on mute. Oh, you're on mute. Yeah, okay. So you think that the rook should go here, but which way do you think we want the king to go to, the left or the right? Which do you think is better? Okay, well in this case it's actually slightly easier to move to the right because whichever place our king is, let's just try to use this as another general rule. We want the opponent's king to go to the other side. Because our king, like I've said right now, the king is going to be an obstacle for us. There's going to be something that's going to make it a lot harder for us to attack or checkmate. So instead, we leave the king here and we want the king to move to the other side. But you'll notice that right now, the king can run this way, right? Because the king is like blocking the cutoff. So in this case, if your king is ever in front of both your rooks, just move it out of the way, just somewhere out of the way. Now you don't want it to go in the same file as the opponent's king though. If it goes in the same file, now even though this rook is cutting off, this rook can't give the check, right? Because our king is blocking. So what we want to do is just try and not in the same file as the opponent's king, so not anywhere here, and not in the same file as our rooks, so not anywhere here. So that means that the king, just throw it somewhere on the side over here. So like you could just move somewhere over here. And now you'll see that this rook is cutting off, right? And now that means this rook, it can go and give the check next. So let's say it goes here, the king goes down, we can go here, and now like Aryan said before, now we have this diagonal, right? And we can have a zigzag pattern and slowly exchange roles, right? Because this rook that's cutting off. Now this rook is giving the check, and now the exchange rolls. This rook cuts off, and this rook gives the check. All right. So in this case, which rook, the blue or the red, which one is going to give the cutoff? Which one is going to cut off the opponent's king? Aryan. All right. And how about Ian? Uh, do you want to answer? Or? Okay, so Ian says the blue and Aryan says the red. How about one more for the tiebreaker? Nicholas? Alright, yeah, you guys are correct. So it is the red rook. So, like I said before, the rook that's closest in terms of the files, right? So it was one file away. This rook is two files away, right? So that means that the rook that's closest to the opponent's king, that's going to cut off, right? The rook that's a bit further away, that is going to come and give the check. And finally, how about Ian? In this case, which rook? The blue or the red? Which one is going to give the check? Remember, the rook closest gives the cut off, and the rook that's a bit further away, that gives the check. Nice, good job. So the red rook is going to go here and give the check, and now it is checkmate because there's no I file and the king can't run across. The king can't go here because of the rook on the G file cutting off. All right? So that now we've learned about all the cases of the two rooks checkmate. So we know that if in the normal case, if the king just decides to run across the side of the board, then what we're going to do is use this zigzag pattern, right, over here, and slowly just keep moving these two rooks across until checkmate, with them exchanging roles of cutoff and check. Our second example, we learned what happens if the king tries to fight back and attack our rooks, right? And attack our rooks. And we learned that if it's the king is attacking or near our rooks, all we have to do is bring the rooks to the other side. Right? The rooks came to the other side, and now they can also give checkmate. And finally, our third case, what if our king is blocking our rooks? Well, what we do then is we just move our king out of the way, not in the same file as the opponent's king, and not in the same file as our rooks. We just throw it out on the side somewhere else. And doing this, then we can just do our normal zigzag attack and checkmate. Alright? So does anybody have any questions at all about the two rooks checkmate? Alright. Nice. So, these recordings, I will be putting these on YouTube, and I'll send you the link. Okay, and other than that, there will be no homework. Wait one sec. Let me just see if there's some. I think there's actually something that could be helpful here. Ah, yes, here. So if you go to Endgames, and then you go to checkmates, there's something called the rookmate, and although you can only practice it once or twice, if you just tried this for like maybe a few minutes, don't do it right now, but like maybe later on in the week, so you guys get like a refresher. So if you guys can go here and click start. Oh, is this one rook? One sec. It's not two rooks. Go to two rooks. All right, then you'll get two rooks. You can don't worry about the time or anything. Just knowing our like things, right? So like this rook, this should be the cutoff rook because it's closest, right? And this rook should come and give the check. Then this rook should be the cutoff, and this rook check. Just practice those methods that we've learned, and you could go through this a few times. All right. So just try and do that for a few minutes, and other than that, I will see you guys next Monday, and there is going to be some pretty big announcements. We will have our first tournament. We're going to have a chess tournament at Tacoma Station Elementary. And the date isn't confirmed. I'm going to leave you hanging on that. But yes, just know that we are going to have a tournament soon. So it's important that you guys focus up on the homework because it'll help you do better in the games. All right? Okay. See you next week. Bye. Aryan? Yeah, yeah. The tournament's in person. It'll be at Natoma Station. I'll send more details about it, like maybe next week. Okay, bye.